So we've begun our first week with your portfolio assignment, considering everyone's point of view on a particular topic. So before we begin to respond to other people's ideas, before we analyze their work, we first demonstrate that we can understand it comprehensively. So summary is a comprehension test, essentially. And this week you'll be watching a TED Talk that is 2,000 approximately words in length, and you'll be reducing it to around 750 words. So the goal is to do that as comprehensively and as accurately as you possibly can. So, summary. Summary is essentially just making a smaller model of the original to scale. So, for example, if you were to acquire a model of this particular airplane, you would want to make sure that you don't simply assemble one giant wing, no landing gear, or miss any other critical components. So we want to make sure that we understand the original in its entirety, at least in terms of its critical components. There are obviously many electronical and smaller features integral to the flight of this plane that are unnecessary to a model. So you will have to make some decisions about what to eliminate, because the original is 2,000 approximately words in length, and yours will be 750. So much of the details will be omitted. But you want to make sure that you are getting the essentials and you're getting them to scale. So if he discusses a topic, say the aspects of being an entrepreneur, and he discusses them for 5 minutes out of a 17-minute presentation, that's obviously a large component of his presentation. That's one of the wings. You want to make sure that that particular topic you include. Now, he may speak to particulars within that topic, which you may easily eliminate. So one of the tricks with summary is trying to make the decision between what seems important and what isn't. And oftentimes, when we don't understand something very well, or we've read it one time or listened to it one time, it's hard to discern what's important and what's not. So you want to look at the original and see if it can be broken down into sections. Sometimes with written material this is easy because there are sections that are highlighted or bolded, or it's broken down into chapters. This is a little more nuanced when you're listening to a speech, but again, it's 17 minutes in length. It's an easy thing to listen to over and over again till you get the general gist. So you'll take some notes while you're watching it. You want to know what topics are covered, how much time is dedicated to each topic. Watch the timing on this and make note of it. What are the essential components? Well, listen for the markers if he says things. If he's counting off on his fingers major topics or major problems, these are probably big issues. If you hear things like first or the second problem or the most important issue, listen for those indicators that he's giving you essential components to his speech. Then once you have the essentials, it becomes much easier to eliminate the unnecessary details. However, you can share interesting examples to help illuminate the point. And then finally, to do this accurately and to do this well is to avoid plagiarism. And that is one of the main skills that we are teaching with summary. Summary is demonstrating, yes, I understand something in its entirety. So often people take things out of context. This happens with biblical passages, it happens with political speeches, it happens with any number of arguments. To take something out of context is to immediately weaken its credibility. So we want to be able to demonstrate we understand something in its entirety. That's the value of summary. And also to do that with avoiding plagiarism is also very important. Most schools, Geneva included, have very strict policies on plagiarism. And oftentimes this happens inadvertently rather than deliberately. So let's make sure that we don't make that mistake. Okay, so when do you need to cite? When you use a phrase coined by the author. If there's a particular phrase that they're using over and over again, and you haven't heard that phrase before, it's most likely original to their own, or at least one that they're referencing. So you can accredit the author with this. So you want to put quotations around the usage, or you may simply italicize it to denote that this is a phrase that is coined by the author. Also, when you are quoting the author directly, obviously you want to cite the page, or in this case you will just use the last name of the speaker in parentheses at the end of your sentence. Also, and most importantly, when you are putting their thoughts into your own words. By doing this, yes, you are keeping the tone true to your own writing. You are taking the time to reword it. It is still their idea. You still need to cite it. That is critical. Okay, so paraphrasing. How is paraphrasing different than summary? Paraphrasing is a 1-to-1 ratio. For example, if the original length of the idea is 1 to 2 sentences, and you have reworded it into 1 to 2 sentences, that is paraphrasing, and you need to cite that. A summary is a reduction. For example, you may condense ideas that an author conveys in 2 paragraphs or in 2 minutes into 1 to 2 sentences. That's summary. So those are the distinctions there. You must cite for paraphrasing when you're keeping that original 1-to-1 ratio and you're just rewording the idea. Even though it's your own words, it is their idea and you need to cite it. Okay, so why paraphrase at all then? Why not simply quote? Well, this is certainly easier when you have a paper that you can refer to and you can look at it and word for word type it out. And yet, many of those ideas that you are directly quoting are not conveyed so poetically that you need to quote them verbatim. By translating the ideas into your own words, you can maintain a more consistent tone, and it's just a little less cumbersome, and oftentimes we just rely too heavily upon quotations, and it makes the paper read like brief introductions to somebody else's words. And although that is the point of summary, that you are really introducing somebody else's ideas, it flows much better to have it reworded into your own tone, into your own manner. And that way you simply, again, cite the ideas even though you've reworded them, and you will have a much more consistent and readable summary. Now, the rubric for this portfolio assignment number 2 summary is first and foremost the citations. That is one of the things that I really want to make sure that you understand well, because you'll be utilizing this again and again and again, and so it'll be a useful tool. So you want to include 2 things. That'll be the in-text citations, and then at the end of the paper, the works cited. In text, you will simply be referring to the speaker by his last name, Ciroli, in quotation or parentheses, and then the period after the parentheses. So anytime that you are rewording a particular idea, anytime that you are quoting him directly, you will use his last name. When you are summarizing something and reducing a large portion to, say, a sentence or two, you needn't cite that. You need not cite the summary of larger ideas. Only you're rewording a very specific ideas. Think of summary as the forest, paraphrasing as the trees. And at the end of the paper, you will have works cited, works and cited, capitalized, centered. And then you have Ciroli, Ernesto, want to help someone, shut up and listen, TED.com, TED Conferences, December 2012 web. So I have it here for you so you can use this for your paper. Now the one thing that I don't have here is that after the first line, lines 2 and 3 are indented. That will become much more apparent when we have multiple sources, because we do not number our sources nor bullet point them. We arrange them alphabetically by last name. That makes the last name stand apart from the rest of the information by indenting anything beyond the first line. The first line is left justified. The rest will be indented. So that is the first and most critical component of this rubric. Next, you will need to have an original title. You may not use his title. You may use summary as your title if you want snide comments from me. It's not original. It's certainly not compelling. Something that denotes the theme as you've understood it would be nice. If you want to employ alliteration, or you want to make a cultural reference, or you want to turn it into a question, then it would be a very good title. The word count should appear in the heading along with your name, and the word count will be anywhere from 725 to 775 words. This is the only time that I will put a cap on a maximum to the word count, and that is because if it's 1,000 words or more, it's almost simply a restatement of the original. Summary is by nature a reduction, so we want to keep it around 750 words. It should be double spaced. It should be free of errors. The introduction should include his full name and the title of his lecture and a paraphrase or a summary of his thesis. The supporting paragraphs should summarize his main topics with selective evidence, and the conclusion is a restatement of his conclusion. Nothing in this rubric asks for your personal response. You're not responding here. It's a comprehension test. You're simply making a model of the original. You're reducing that airplane accurately to a smaller model. You want to make sure you have both wings and the landing gear, the essentials. So the big, important, essential parts of this speech, you want to make sure that you include. The smaller details, all of the electrical wires and things that you would not find on a model airplane. Of course, you wouldn't find those minor details in a summary. It's just the major components. You will have the opportunity to weigh in with your personal response and your bias in other ways, but not in this particular project. It's just his ideas. Therefore, you will find yourself referring to him over and over again. Be careful that you don't simply repeat Ciroli says. There are thesaurus applications available for you on Word and you can find things online. There are many ways that you can create variety in the way that you refer to the author. You're going to want to refer to him probably around once a paragraph to make sure that we remember that these are his ideas and not yours. Obviously, you'll be citing throughout. And you can say that he states, he conveys, he persuades, he invokes. There are many synonyms for the word says. So just another tip there for you. So this is something that you'll want to at least begin right away in terms of going out there and watching it the first time and taking notes, and then watching it again and watching it again to get it accurate. That will be the challenge. Good luck.